When I was a young man, I often felt like the most useless person I knew. At times, life seemed to weigh heavily on my shoulders, and every day was a struggle just to get out of bed. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone who was aimless and lost, drifting through life without purpose or direction. I wandered from job to job, each one more disheartening than the last, and I began to entertain dark thoughts about my existence. One particularly bleak afternoon, I thought of ending it all, hoping to escape the relentless weight of inadequacy that pressed against me. In search of solace, I took long walks in the nearby forest, where the trees stood tall and proud, oblivious to my inner turmoil. It was during one of these walks that I stumbled upon something unexpected. A girl sitting on a large rock, tears streaming down her face. Her beauty struck me, a stark contrast to the sadness that enveloped her. My heart ached at the sight, and despite my own despair, I approached her, compelled by a need to help. "Why are you crying?" I asked, my voice unsteady. She looked up, her eyes red and swollen, and for a moment, I saw the weight of the world reflected in her gaze. "I feel like I'm going to die," she sobbed. "I lost my virginity, and my father will never forgive me. In his eyes, I am worthless now." My heart sank as I absorbed her words. I struggled to understand the burden she was carrying. "But you are not worthless," I said, fumbling for the right words. "You are a person, valuable and full of potential. Why would you allow someone else to dictate your worth?" She stared at me, a mixture of confusion and surprise flickering across her face. "You don't understand. In my culture, losing virginity is shameful, and I fear that my father will see me as corrupted, unworthy of love." As I listened to her, I felt a connection growing between us, an understanding that perhaps our experiences of worthlessness were intertwined. I, too, had believed at times that my existence was meaningless, but I also understood that I had the power to change that narrative. I shared with her my struggles, fueling a spark of hope derived from vulnerability. My admission seemed to ease the weight in her heart, as if by unburdening ourselves, we could both find solace in our shared humanity. "Believe me," I said softly, "we can fill our lives with meaning regardless of the opinions of others. It begins with self-acceptance." As we talked, her tears dried, and a strange calm enveloped us. We sat together in that quiet glade, two lost souls trying to find our way in a world that otherwise seemed so dark and unforgiving. "Why don't we make a pact right here, right now?" I suggested. "Let's promise to support one another in building our self-worth. We can be architects of our own value, learning to appreciate who we are and what we bring to this world." She nodded, a smile breaking through the clouds of her sorrow. It was a pledge of solidarity, two people facing their demons together. Our conversations became a ritual. We would meet every week within the forest embrace, sharing our journeys, our thoughts on love, loss, and joy. As my bond with her deepened, I began to awaken to the idea that self-improvement was not a solitary pursuit. Her daily struggles mirrored my own fight against self-doubt, and I recognized the mutual strength we derived from confiding in one another. Our laughter rang through the trees, bolstering our spirits against the winds of despair that whispered lies about our worth. Time passed, and with the seasons changed, I began to shed layers of my former self. Each story I exchanged with her built my confidence, brick by brick. I gradually found a passion for art, a skill that had always bubbled beneath the surface, suppressed by a lack of belief in my capabilities. She would praise my paintings, encouraging me to submit them to local galleries. The first time I saw my artwork displayed, the rush of pride I felt was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the shadows of my past. I remembered how I once believed I was useless. In reflection, I realized it wasn't merely the act of creating that mattered. It was the acceptance of my individuality and the courage to share it with the world. My friend and I continued to uplift each other, and in her pursuit of acceptance, she eventually found her voice too. With time, her relationship with her father transformed. He eventually began to appreciate her for who she was beyond cultural expectations, slowly recognizing her strength, spirit, and independence. I was inspired by her resilience as she fought against the confines of societal norms. As we faced our fears together, I noticed a profound shift in the way I perceived challenges. Every obstacle became less a burden and more an opportunity for growth. I learned to embrace discomfort, recognizing that it is often within struggle that we discover our greatest strengths. Our conversations grew past our individual troubles into discussions about life, philosophy, joy, and self-discovery. We pondered together, asking each other profound questions about existence and purpose. The inquisitive nature of our conversations led us to explore new ideas and perspectives, turning our simple meetings into a profound journey towards enlightenment. It was during one of those late summer evenings, with the sun setting behind the trees, that I realized how far we had both come. We exchanged promises not just to ourselves but to one another, to uphold our worth, pursue our dreams relentlessly, and, perhaps most importantly, to never shy away from embracing life's complexities. When our paths eventually diverged, I found myself standing at a crossroads, empowered by the journey we had shared. The girl I had met in the forest had become a beacon of light in my life, and I cherished the lessons learned from our connection. I understood that every single person we meet can impart valuable wisdom if we are open to listening and learning. I emerged from my years of darkness. I had transformed from a young man filled with hopelessness into an individual, buoyed by dreams and aspirations. As I stepped from the shadows, ready to embrace whatever life had to offer, I realized something profound. Our lives are defined not by the opinions of others, but by our self-acceptance, our willingness to rise again after falling, and our courage to reach for our potential. In the depths of despair, we often find our greatest enlightenment when we decide to connect with others instead of retreating into isolation. The girl in the forest taught me that vulnerability unlocks new avenues for growth. Today, I stand here, reflecting on the beautiful notion that our struggles can serve as the foundation for our greatest achievements. They equip us with experiences that ignite our inner strength, reminding us to inspire others on their journeys as well. In conclusion, this story underscores a vital message. We are not defined by our circumstances or what others perceive as worthless. It's essential to cultivate self-acceptance and foster connections with those around us, as it is through these relationships that we find purpose and strength. Embrace your vulnerability, connect deeply with others, and understand that every step, no matter how small, on the journey of self-improvement contributes to your remarkable story. Remember that within you lies an extraordinary potential, waiting to unfold as you embrace life's beautiful complexities with an open heart.